To wear God's crown is to know the things of God are hidden from man. To receive the diadems that are in the crown of God is to receive the many lights and mights within those lights that God had given unto the children when they first came into being. For in every way God said, "Let there be light," God activated all the mights that were of the lights that were in the children of God. And with these lights, the children were able to do great and marvelous things and to access the divine knowledge that was of the universe and to know the wisdom that was in that knowledge that was given to them. And they did all these things because they wore the crown of God. God shows man that wherever he went, he did not wear the crown of God, and all men wore their crowns upon their heads, never knowing what God had shown to them in all the ways that God had given them to see, that their crowns eventually tumble down. Man knew not the way God designed man, and therefore man did not know the way that his head is designed. And God designed the head in all the ways that God wanted man to see and to know that his head is not where God's crown should be worn. And when he did not know the truth, he was always walking in a world full of deceit. This head of man, which your God euphemistically referred to as the golden bowl, this golden bowl carries within it what man terms to be his brains. But he didn't know that his brains represent all the ways in which earth carries within it that which is given to the head of man. So that in all the ways that man went in the way of his head, God told man, you went in the way of the lower life, because he didn't understand what it meant. When the children of God refer to anyone at home as a mudhead, it is because they say to them, you think you are wise, but you are stupid. And the children didn't understand where from came that saying, nor how deep is its meaning. But they said it nevertheless. God said, when you take the top of the head off, the head becomes a bowl. And the crown that you take off becomes a bowl. And every way that God showed man how it was done, God showed man. He didn't understand that he walked in the deceit of his head because he saw it as his golden bowl. And he used his head to do all things that God showed him violated every sacred and divine law that God had given unto man. He didn't know how he learned to lie, to cheat, to steal, deceive, destroy, and kill, because he didn't know that it came from his head. And until man came to know the way of his own head, he could not have known how it is that in every way that God said to man, turn away from these ways, turn away from these ways, God wanted man to know you're going the wrong way because you should go in the way of your head. Until man learned how to sever the connection to his head and reconnect with his heart, he could never find the truth, nor could he find the Christ light of enlightenment, because man did not know that every way that God's heart was given to man, that in all the ways that his heart would be in God's heart, he would come to know the things that are sacred and divine, that is, of the higher ways of a higher God. And God knew that it didn't matter what man thought or what he believed. He could never find the truth going the way of his head. He would never find truth in the way of his head. And unless he knew how to find the way to his own heart and know how his heart is located in the heart of God, the mysteries of all life and creation remains a mystery unto man. We have taught you that the wayward ways of men are not the ways of God in light. And when the head focuses on all the seen things that are lesser than what God gave to man, God told man that he pursued darkness visible. For darkness visible is all these things that man pursues, believing that they were always good for him, never knowing that in all the ways that he is deceived by them, he became a deceiver himself. For God knew that except man is given the eye of spirit, he cannot see that which is in light. And because the spirit is what gives origination to the seen things, God wanted man to know that that is the God that dwells within him. God always shows man things that he doesn't understand. When you go to sleep, you lay your head down. When you lay your head down, it gives supremacy to your heart. And all men that dream dreams, see visions, and experience nightmares did not know that when the heart is in ascendance, it takes man in realms that his head cannot take him. He's able to see things and know things that the head cannot see and know. So that in every way that God kept showing man in all the ways that he journeyed and continues to journey in this life, that your truth, the knowledge of yourself, cannot be attained through the way of your head. You have to find the way to your heart. And all men walk this world never knowing how to find the way to his own heart, even though your God had given man a clue. Even though God gave man a clue. Love everything that God has created. Do good to everything in the service of God. And every way that you must walk upright before God, follow the sacred laws God gave it unto you. All men broke the sacred and divine laws of God. No man found the way to love in God, so that he may give freely of God from the goodness that would flow from his heart. And so you see, God says, why we said to the whole world, it is only in the end that the truth will be known. And God gives you to teach, to preach, and to say the things that God giveth to be said, that the children of God may awaken, and we will awaken them. For wherever man dwells in this world, he, like everything else, is under the command of your mother and father God. That command is given to everyone in the breath that comes in the wind that goes into man. And in every way that man must accept what is given in the breath, he must do the will of God that is to be done. And God taught all men in the prayer God gave to man to say, thy will be done. And God's will is always done. We know the way to make the children turn away. We know the way to change them. The conversion of Saul to Paul is all the ways that God showed man. But in the twinkle of an eye, God can change you. Within the twinkle of an eye, God can change anyone. And God knows the way to change the children. For we said unto you, the children don't know the way. They can't find the way. They're lost in the way. Because they lost that which they came from the Son with. Because when they themselves did not know where they came from, they don't know how they were when they came to be here on earth. And we have always said to you, tell them, they came from the land of Moab, which is known as the land of the sun. They came here in higher vibrations, which carry higher frequencies that enable them to have rhythms higher than that which is of earth. And because of all this, the children were able to be great and mighty and to command that which is of the lower vibrations of earth. They didn't understand anything. Because when they violated the trust of God and went in the way of disobedience, all the sacred and divine things of God left them. It returned back to the Son. The children became stranded here, and like sheep were lost in a world they did not know and could no longer know. And when they became victims of evildoers, they had no powers to overcome it. And so we said unto them, the time will come when all these atrocities that have been committed against you, you will overcome, so that in every way the children are changed, in all the ways that God is mighty to save them. God gives them the way of a light. The Christ light carries within it all that which is of the sacred powers of God that are of the higher ways of a higher God. And so whenever Christ is risen, it is the way in which God shows them. Just as how the sun rises in the skies and becomes brighter as it goes along, so will the Christ light in the children of God lift them up in all the ways that they too will become brighter and brighter in the consciousness, knowledge, and wisdom of what they had not known. There's a reason why the whole world is confused about God, the nature of God, how God exists and how everything exists or anything exists. And that reason is because man is always in a lower vibration. He cannot find the frequencies to come higher. And when he couldn't find the frequencies to come higher, he could not know what obtains in the higher ways of a higher world. For no man sees the unseen world. He sees what the head of man gives him to see. And all that he ever sees is that which is of a lesser world, that God giveth man to know will soon come to a close. God closes the book of life and opens the book of resurrection unto eternal life. These are the ways of God that carry the knowledge of God in the many ways in which the mysteries of God given to you are to be revealed to the children of God. For no man knew the book of resurrection, because God did not share it with man. In giving it into you, we show you that all utterances that come from you come from within the book that is within you. And every man came into this world never really knowing that the book of life resides in everybody. So when God tells them, you better know yourself. When you know yourself, if you don't know that, like God, you don't need anyone else. No man found the way to the book of life within him. And every way that man wrote fragments of things that were given to him, God said, you see, where did the ideas that you have originate from? From within you. How could they originate from within you, except they are already within you? God says, you see, son, whenever you thought that man carries within him everything that exists in the world that is of the world, God said, no, many of them didn't understand what you were telling them. Everything that is of the world, in the world, is in you. And because you did not come to know yourself, you did not know how that which was of you represented everything that is of creation. And they didn't access it. They couldn't access it. they wouldn't access it. God says, it is finished.